My Dad Sells Insurance by Richard C. Shaw. Illustrated by Dan Snyder. Dedication. This book is dedicated to my children, Richard and Elizabeth, whom I love with all my heart. It is also dedicated to all the parents and grandparents who sell insurance and who have made insurance the great industry that it is today. Business is temporary, but parents are forever. This is a story about Richard and his dad. The story tells how Richard got to know what his dad does when he goes to work each day. Wow, that was the hardest assignment I've ever had. I didn't even know what my father does for a living. Yesterday, Mrs. Pickens gave us homework. She said, "Children, tomorrow I'm going to ask each of you to explain to the class what either your mother or father does for a living. I'll expect you to tell us something about what they actually do in their work, not just the name of what they do. It is very important for you to understand what your parents do and for all of us to learn about different kinds of work. I want each of you to take a few minutes now to think about what you know. Then, I'd like you to talk with your parents at home to get a clear idea of what they do. Then write a short report that you can read to all of us." Most of my classmates didn't have trouble writing their reports. For example, John's father is a fireman. Once our class visited the firehouse to see the fire engine and all of the equipment. John's father explained to us how he puts out fires and rescues people. Susan's mother is a doctor who works in an emergency room. Susan says her mother puts casts on broken legs and stitches up great big cuts. Jane's father builds new houses. He even built the house that Jane's family lives in. I like playing where they are building new houses. It's fun to watch the men and the cement trucks and to see how the houses get put up. I knew my dad sells insurance, but I never really saw him do it. I knew it would be awfully hard to write my report because I really didn't know what insurance is. I see him go to work in the mornings, but he often gets home late when my sister and I are in bed. Even when he is home at night, he is usually busy with his papers. He works very hard. Sometimes my little sister Elizabeth and I go to our dad's office on weekends. We play with the office computer while Dad opens mail and puts papers in and out of his briefcase. Mrs. Pickens gave the assignment. I sat at my desk trying to think. All I really knew is that my dad sells insurance and that he is gone a lot. He has a nice office with computers that are not for playing games. The computers just type letters. I think he talks on the phone a lot to people about things that the papers in his briefcase are about. There are a lot more papers in his office, too. All the desks are full of papers. I think insurance is something about papers and money. In the lunchroom after class, we talked about what our parents do for a living. I didn't feel good that the other kids knew more about their parents' jobs. I even knew more about what the other kids' parents do than I did about my own dad's work. Susan made me feel even worse. She said that some people don't like insurance. I got a little mad at her for telling me that about my father's work. At dinner that night, I told Dad about my homework. I told him that a lot of other kids knew more about what their parents do for a living than I did. I didn't want to hurt his feelings with what Susan said, but I told him anyway because I needed to hear what he would say. Dad said, "Those are fair questions. It's hard for many people, even grown-ups, to understand what insurance is all about, and people often don't like what they don't understand." Dad explained that I was right, that insurance is about money and paperwork, but it's about a lot more too. He said, people buy insurance because they love someone that they want to protect or because they own something that they want to protect. I'll tell you about some things that actually happened so that you can understand what insurance protection really means. Dad said he sold fire insurance to one family who had a beautiful home that they had lived in for many years. He told me, but one night someone forgot a burning cigarette that fell onto the couch and burned the house down. Everyone in the family was totally shocked, Dad said. They could not believe what happened to them. He said, after the fire, they called me on the telephone. I explained that the insurance protection they bought from me would give them the money to rebuild the house and buy new furniture and a new doll for their little girl. Dad said, when the house was rebuilt and the family had new beds, new furniture, and a new doll for the little girl, they invited me over to see how nice it was. They thanked me for selling them the insurance protection that rebuilt their home. You know, the best part of my job is to be able to help people that way and see how much they appreciate what I do for them. As you can see, a fire is a very serious thing, Dad said, but sometimes fires happen in strange ways. For example, there is a small town that buys insurance from me to protect the town. One very cold night, when the fire engine was out fighting a fire at someone's home, the fire department building caught fire and burned to the ground. Well, even the fire department needed fire insurance, and the insurance company paid to build a brand new firehouse for the town. That's another example of how insurance protection works. Then there was another family that Dad told me about. He said that one snowy night they had a very bad automobile accident. Their car skidded on an icy road. The car was totally wrecked, but worst of all, the father was very badly hurt. He had to be taken to the hospital in an ambulance. My dad said, the father was a friend of mine, so I rushed over to the hospital when I heard about the accident. Dad said, when the father arrived at the hospital, Susan's mother, the doctor, took care of his bleeding and broken bones. She saved his life. But a few days later, Dad said, the hospital sent a bill to the family that was for more than all the money they had. Lucky for them, they had the medical insurance I sold them. The insurance company paid almost all of the bills for them. He said they were very happy about that. At the hospital, the family thought that their father would die, and the mother began to cry for the children. She said, how will I be able to pay the rent and buy the food and pay for the clothes on what I earn alone? Without the money that Dad earns, we will lose our home, and I don't know what we will do. How will we take care of ourselves without him? My dad said, I told them not to worry, because the doctor said that he would get better. But I told her that the life insurance protection I sold them would give them the money that they need if he had died in the car accident. It makes me feel good to know, my dad said, that almost whatever happened to them and to my friend, They would have a home and a car and enough money to live. That's the wonderful part of what we do in the insurance business. After the father got out of the hospital, he had to stay in bed at home for 6 months and could not work. My father said they didn't have enough money to pay the rent or buy food or clothes because their father could not work. But I sold them insurance that pays people money when they are too hurt or too sick to work. And, Dad said, the insurance I sold them paid enough to get a new car to replace the one that was wrecked. He said, they decided to buy their new car from your friend, Robert's father. He owns the local car dealership in town. Dad said, I sold him insurance that protects his automobile business. He said, every week they went to buy groceries from Tom's father. He owns the local grocery store. They used the insurance money that I sent to them because their father couldn't work while he was staying home to get better. Then my father told me one night they were watching the news on TV. It showed a report of a tornado in Ohio. There was a family just like theirs standing in the middle of their flattened house. Everything was gone. They didn't know what to do. They had no money. They had no insurance. They had no place to go. They were hopeless. After they saw the sad story on TV, the whole family felt very bad for the people whose house was blown down. Dad said that the children were confused. They asked, why don't those people have any hope? Why doesn't that family on TV have insurance to help them the way it helped us? Their father said, maybe they didn't believe that it could happen to them, he said. Maybe they didn't want to talk to an insurance agent, or maybe they just didn't understand how important insurance is for protecting and keeping families together. I was very impressed with how my dad helps people. After dinner last night, I wrote my report in my room. It's my turn to read my report in class today. This is what I said. I'm really glad we had to do this homework about the way our parents make a living because I found out that I really didn't know. I also learned that some grown-ups don't understand what insurance is about either. My dad sells insurance. He sells it because he cares about people. My dad showed me how insurance helps people protect themselves, the things they own, and the people that they love. Insurance isn't something you can see like a house or a car or food, but it protects you and everybody needs it. Some grown-ups don't figure that out until it's too late. It fixes your house if it burns down. It can buy you a new car if it gets wrecked in a crash. It pays the doctor and the hospital for great big bills that most people couldn't pay themselves. And it can give your family the money to buy food and things if your mom or dad is too sick to work, or even if one of them dies. Those are awful things, but they happen to people sometimes. He showed me how much people appreciate what he does for them when they finally understand how insurance helps them. Carpenters use hammers and saws as tools. Doctors use pills and needles as tools. My dad uses his telephone and his computer and his car and his papers as tools. My dad is proud of what he does, and I'm proud of him too. I don't know yet what I want to be when I grow up. Dad said I can be whatever I want to be. He said that he will be proud of me as long as I'm happy and do a good job and help other people. Maybe I'll sell insurance too. The end.